Doc.
I was looking for it. Good evening. You're listening to the new WCEG network on WCEGTalkRadio.com. Click live stream tab or watch us live on your smart TV. YouTube WCEG network. I'm Dr. Wanzo, a practicing psychiatrist in Atlanta for the past 28 years. I'm your show host of Mind Matters for the next 2 hours, where we discuss relevant mental health issues. We're the worldwide community empowerment group, where we speak life into the community. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and on Instagram at WCEG Talk Radio and at WCEG Network. Join the conversation. Call in or Skype at 1-678-619-1402, 1-678-619-1402. Ask your questions, make comments, or voice your concerns. Let us hear from you. 1-678-619-1402. Last but not least, the topics and opinions are those of the show host and guest, and not WCEG Network. Thank you for your continued support. Our co-host is Officer Paul DesVignes, who has over 20 years of experience in law enforcement. Hi, Paul.
Hey, Doc.
We
Hi,
are
WCEG
affectionately known as the Doc and the Cop.
That be us.
Yes. Now we have a very special guest in the studio this evening, Miss Shavette Athouris. Miss Athouris, or Mrs. Athouris, I should say, has been recently married for a year. She's been a registered nurse for 20 years. She's a former nursing professor at DeKalb Technical College. She's a former dark and lovely model. She has been featured in Success from Home magazine and graced the cover of Simply Home magazine. She's been featured in several talk shows and radio shows. She has a passion for helping people. I know this personally because I've worked with her many years. In fact, we all worked in the same clinic. Miss Athouris holds a Bachelor's of Science degree in nursing and has worked as a registered nurse for over 20 years. She has served as RN case manager at various hospitals and clinics, provided psychiatric rehabilitation treatment on assertive community treatment teams, and has worked as a director of nursing for well-known agencies. Mrs. Athouris has always been a compassionate person with a caring heart, which has led her to volunteering thousands of community hours at homeless shelters to enrich the lives of homeless men, women, and children. Welcome, Ms. Athouris.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Glad to be here.
Yes. So, what is our topic this evening? It is getting to I do, or wedding planning stress. Again, getting to I do, wedding planning stress. He popped the question. She said yes, so everything is all sunshine and roses, right?
No.
Wrong, not. There was a recent survey done of 500 recently married and engaged couples, and these were the results of the survey. Of the 500 couples, 96% of the couples said that planning the wedding stressed them out. 96%. And some people said the other 4% were probably lying.
And I agree.
Yes.
So, according to the study, 71% of the couple said that they found planning a wedding more stressful than any other life event that they had encountered. 71%. So what caused all the stress? Here are the 4 areas that caused the most stress. Number 1, finding a venue.
Okay.
That was the most stressful.
I agree with that.
Number 2, managing the guest list. Number 3, sticking to a budget. And number 4, arguments. Arguments with the parents, arguments with the in-laws, and the spouse-to-be. The couple said in terms of the most stressful interactions, they found the parents to be the most stressful, 53%. And they found the in-laws to be the next most stressful, 33%. So they felt, when they asked them about the stress and what had they considered, they found that the couples considered these other options. Eloping, 47% considered eloping after having to take on the planning of the wedding. 26% considered just taking the money and running. 16% considered postponing the event. And 8% considered just calling the whole thing off, all from the stress of planning the wedding. So, given this, I'm going to ask our guest, Ms. Athouris, what are your thoughts about any of this? Is this something that you've dealt with in the planning of your wedding, or?
Absolutely. I mean, I know it's only been 1 year for us, and I can say it was very stressful, especially towards the end where you get close to that wedding date. And each one of the 4 items that you mentioned are definitely areas that causes stress. You know, the venues, the making the guest list, because oftentimes you may have you come up with a number with your soon-to-be spouse, and the number continues to grow from people that you forgot about, but yet again still thinking about the financial aspect of it, because the greater the guest list, the more costly it becomes. So that just creates even more stress.
Absolutely.
And Paul, let me just say that you are going through that process now.
I'm leaning toward the 8%.
Oh no!
And ladies, don't get me wrong. I know it takes work to plan the wedding. But I never imagined it was this. It brings out the worst in your interpersonal relationship with your soon-to-be spouse. It creates issues and concerns that, when you are still in that wonderful, we love each other, we're going to take to the next level phase, you don't even imagine all of this stuff kicking in. The thing that gets me the most, when you start sitting down and planning a budget and how to finance it, the cost is ridiculous.
Can I say something about cost?
Yes, you can.
I did some research, and here's what they said. The average wedding costs $29,858. $29,858. That's the average wedding, but it varies by state. The most expensive place to hold a wedding in the U.S., New York City, Manhattan. The average wedding in Manhattan is $88,000, $176. $88,000.
Let me ask a question.
Let me just tell you what the least expensive was. Mississippi, $12,000. That's from Mississippi.
And that's
Georgia. Georgia was, it was in Atlanta. The average cost of a wedding was $28,659.
I guess in Mississippi they just using that money to go somewhere else to get married. but seriously, I gotta ask you, ladies, and since I'm the only man on the panel, so why does a wedding have to be that expensive?
Okay, let me hear the breakdown. They got the breakdown of expenses. Here's what the breakdown. The number 1 most expensive aspect of the wedding was the reception venue at an average of $13,000. Then the engagement ring, so you can do anything, but the average cost was like $6,000 for the engagement ring. For the reception band, $3,000. Photographer, $2,000. And the ceremony site, $1,700. But they also, so when they talk about the venue, that is include the venue itself, includes the bar service. The average couple pays somewhere between $1,800 and $3,000 for the bar. That's with the open bar. For food, this is making sure that your guests are well fed is one of the most expensive parts of the wedding. Wow. Expect to spend an average of $4,200 for a wedding of 100 guests, but the average ranges anywhere from $300 to $100 a plate, depending on what you're serving. The rental of the venue for the reception, $3,000 was the average. Equipment rentals, that includes chairs, tables, other things that you had, $1,700. So those are some of the costs.
Wow.
So
it can be quite expensive.
So are you?
I totally agree. Being that we just went through this, and a year ago. The most expensive part of a wedding is the venue, selecting the venue, and then selecting the menu, and then on top of that, the decorations. And about $80 to $100 starting is about right. You'd be very fortunate if you can find somewhere that can charge you $50 to $60 for per person. But that's where the bulk of your expenses are.
And I find this amazing because. What do people who are financially strapped do?
Well,
if you can't afford this, but yet you still want to be married.
That's one very important thing that as a couple, soon to be married, one of the first things that you really want to do is look at your finances and see realistically what you can afford and what you can't afford. That should be your base and your starting point. If it's, whatever budget you decide on, stick to that budget.
Stick to the budget.
It can continue to increase. I have seen couples have a budget of liquid cash that they have in their bank accounts. Then I've also had couples or known couples who maxed out credit cards, charged up their American Express or, got a line of credit and, to make it, more easier as you're going through. So that's just another option. But then you have to remember at the end of it all, that money has to be paid back. So that's what some couples do, when they have maybe $20,000 here, but they need another $20,000 or $10,000, then they'll, may get, open lines of credit with different credit card companies. But that's not something that I recommend because you don't want that debt after your wedding.
Ladies, I've never been married, but I'm contemplating that journey as we speak. And the thing that amazes me as I'm listening to you two is the expense of getting married. Not staying married, but getting married. And if I remember correctly, the number one reason of divorce is finances. So even before we say I do, we've already gone into severe financial stress trying just to get together.
Let me tell you something funny. This occurred. My mother, who's passed on, she really had this habit of if someone got married, she would wait a year and then give them the wedding gift.
Wow.
I can see if they were still together. She would wait a year, and if they're still together a year, then she would give them a gift.
I am quite amazed because all the time the divorce rate is. If I remember from USA Today several weeks ago, saying how marriage is declining. You got more people living together as couples than you have as married now in households. I'm like, wow. Well, it's not even a matter to me so much how much money is spent, but the question for me is why am I spending that much money?
Well, you know what? I think oftentimes the people are trying to impress other people. I think that's a big thing. They're trying to impress other people by the flashiness and showiness. And
that's sad because when everything is said and done, when those people are gone, you, like as Shavette said, you're stuck with all that debt. And at the end of the day, that's going to be the first foundation for the argument after the wedding. It's like, not only how we're going to get paid back, but if you didn't determine who was going to pay it ahead of time, it's like now, if you guys want to buy a house and you don't have the financial means to pay for a wedding, that money that you spend just to get married would be your down payment.
Exactly.
So that's
$29,000 for the average wedding. $29,000.
You know what I can do with 30 grand? That makes no sense to me. Doc, when you got married.
Okay, let me tell you. Okay, I'm glad you asked that question. So I got married kind of in the older days. I mean, that was, my son is 40, so it was more than 40 years ago. 1976, that's when I got married, so that's how many years ago. So I was in medical school, I mean, I was broke. I didn't have any money. I was in medical school, so I didn't have any money to have a big wedding. So we actually managed to pull off 2 ceremonies. So the first, after we got engaged, we didn't want to wait, so we just had something in the backyard, my parents' backyard.
Really?
Yeah.
Got married?
In my parents' backyard. The actual ceremony and everything was my parents' backyard. My father officiated. We went downstairs in the basement and ate in my parents' home.
So that was a $60 wedding.
All the food, not my mother. Somebody paid for all the food.
Probably aunt and uncles, they all.
Yeah, it was just cousins.
Daddy was the pastor.
Right. But I had this beautiful dress I got in the Village in New York. This beautiful, like, white dress.
So it was a $160 wedding.
So, and he had a suit on. So that was in September, Labor Day weekend. So then in December, on Christmas Eve, or the day after Christmas, it was the 26th of December, we had a wedding at my father's church in Milwaukee.
Wow.
So my father, having been the pastor for many years, I don't remember paying anything for
so
the
you
use
have
of
to
the
pay
church.
For a venue.
Although I understand that people do charge now for the use of the venue, but I don't remember paying anything for the use of the church. And we had an African wedding, so everything was all African clothing. Myself and my husband, he wore like a dashiki, nice dashiki, and I had on this, an African dress, and I had attendants, and they all wore African dresses, and the men wore dashikis. And then I know we bought a cake and maybe had my bouquet, but I don't remember spending anything else. And for the reception, it was in the reception hall of the church downstairs, and all the women of the church cooked the food. So, I mean, that was really inexpensive. Yeah.
It's funny you should say that. Let's get back. Let's focus on our churches for a moment. Our house of worship was supposed to be the center of our communities. Do you think, especially in the bigger churches, the mega churches, that their purpose in the community, these churches had lost because what they charge for these venues? And I understand, their expenses.
That they do charge quite a bit. I was really surprised. I was in the beauty salon the other day and someone mentioned like they do charge a lot of money in the churches like that. That's a money-making item for them.
Now, I can understand you would charge a non-member that says they want to use your facility, but keep it reasonable if they're a member of that community. But what about if you're a member of this church, lifelong, generational member of this church? And again, I do understand church expenses, but at the same time, the churches still are supposed to be the pillar of the communities to enhance the quality of life for us all. Should our churches be charging exorbitant rates? Well, in most cases, think about it. Yeah, there's a fee for maintenance and running of this church, but at what point does it become excessive?
Do you have any idea what churches are charging? Anybody?
No, I'm not sure.
Do you have any idea what churches are charging?
I go to church once in a blue moon.
Typically, the churches that I'm accustomed to, they don't charge.
Okay. That's here in Georgia or back home?
Georgia and Mississippi.
Okay.
I'm originally from Mississippi, so most of those churches don't.
Now, are we talking about the little mom and pop churches, little Baptist church? Or are we talking like some of the bigger ones? Especially when these churches get prominence and bringing in these high dollar pastors, or should I say high profile pastors. Now, membership is all about, because every church, I understand, I keep reiterating, I understand you need money to operate. But at what point
I agree.
Does it become excessive?
But this one in the salon, I didn't ask her what the church charged. She said, no, it's a moneymaker for the churches that they charge it like it's a moneymaker for them. So I was like really surprised.
Wow.
Yeah. If anyone has any knowledge of like what it costs to rent a church, please call us and let us know it. 678-619-1402, 678-619-1402. I'd like to know more about what they're charging. Yeah. She just said that it's a moneymaker, but she didn't tell me what it costs.
And if we're talking venue, it's one of the largest expenses.
Exactly. Venue.
How did you come to choose your venue, Shavette?
Well, for me personally, I originally wanted a wedding on a beach.
A beach.
Like a sandals destination wedding.
Gotcha.
Originally. But majority of the family at the time was in Miami, Florida area. So we didn't want the cost of everyone else having to fly there because there is a beach. We just tried to make that work. So we ended up having a wedding at a resort. And although there's a beach behind the resort, we're right at the resort, we were able to be on a very nice concrete area. So I didn't have to worry about the sand or things of that nature. It was actually concrete that sat up, a ways high off, and the beach is right there. Okay. So in the background, you actually see the beach.
But not the concrete.
But I was able to be on concrete, which was perfect. So that was one thing. And then I wanted a all-in-one type deal because it started getting stressful when I was trying to select a venue. And they charge, $7,000 or whatever just for the venue, not including food. And then, that just was a whole nother fee. So what I decided to do was to do a yacht wedding.
Gotcha.
We had the option to get married on the yacht, but because the home of the yacht sat right across the street from where the resort was, the hotel, we actually did it at the hotel and walked across the walkway and did the reception on the yacht.
Nice.
But everything on the yacht was pretty much included, from the entire buffet meal, decorations. They did the tablecloths. They decorated each table. For us, it was 200 people. The cake was included. And only thing that we had to pay for on the yacht outside of everything else was the DJ.
Okay.
What was the cost of the DJ?
Oh gosh, I think we paid like $400 or $500.
Because the average is between $600 and $1,000 for the DJ, right?
Yeah.
And the cost,
So we paid about $500, but we had.
What are you getting, Kid Capri?
That's what it said. The DJ, $600 to $1,000.
So we had about, but the yacht was 4 levels. So we actually had 2 different DJs. One DJ was on one level and he played music for like the older crowd, like our parents, a crowd that maybe want to sit for a while. And then on another level,
the slow jam, the Geritol DJ.
Yeah. So on another level, we had a regular DJ for our time and our type music that maybe they don't want to listen to.
What's our time?
We actually had 2 DJs. Huh?
I'm just wondering what's our time.
Well, hey, it's I like old school music, but when you have teenagers versus 20, 30-year-olds versus 50, 60, 70-year-olds, it's just a different genre of music. It's different.
Okay, so you're dropping it like a heart.
No. So that's why we chose to do the yacht, because it just alleviated the stresses of all the different other things. So other than a videographer and photographer that we paid for, everything else was on the yacht except for the DJs.
And what was the cost of the photographer?
I think we paid about $2,000.
That's about what you're seeing.
So we paid $2,000 for the videographer and then $2,000 for the photographer.
The average cost of the photographer was $2,040.
And you get what you pay for. I would suggest not that not being one area that you would want to deviate from and try to get it for a low price. You want somebody that's very reputable and going to do a great job, because this is something that you want to capture for the rest of your life. So if you want to look at it 10, 20, 30, 50 years later, you need a very good videographer that's going to do a detailed job, and also a photographer that's going to capture those moments.
So those 2 separate people, the photographer and the videographer.
It was 2 separate people.
So what was the cost of the videographer?
It was about $2,000 each.
Oh, each, okay.
Now explain me the purpose of a videographer.
Videographer is going to video it. They're going to video with camera. Photographer takes pictures.
No, I understand that part. The photographer, I understand. We all have wedding pictures around our parents. Wedding pictures since the invention of the camera itself. But the videographer, I'm sitting there asking myself, do it's either or do I need both?
It's a personal,
because if it's $2,000 each, again, we're talking $4,000, and it's funny because the cost escalates with everything that we want to include in the wedding. And I'm listening to both of you. Now, Doc got the Lolo wedding.
Yes. yes.
And I'm trying to follow her.
Well, the great thing about both the photographer and the videographer, we only paid like a percentage. I think we paid 50% before the wedding. And then the other half didn't want to pay until after the wedding. They got all the pictures together and put all the footage together for the video. We didn't have to pay the balance of that until afterwards, and pretty much
until you see the finished product.
Those are areas where they will work with
you.
Right? And it's just that second portion. Say, for instance, you won't have the half until 3 months. Well, 3 or 4 months, 6 months. But once you get it, be upfront with them and say, hey, I may have it, 60 days or so after the wedding, and they'll just take their time preparing it, but they will work with you.
And that's pretty amazing, because I was doing my research, and I understand that this can become a very expensive proposition. And as I'm reading and looking at all the different, how should I say, advice and referrals to trying to offset the cost of weddings, they say go to film schools, get students.
I don't know about that.
Well, and then there's semi-professional photographers. Okay. I understand, like Shavette said, you get what you pay for. Right. But, there's always a hidden talent or a diamond in the rough. And this is where they hone their skills as well. And I do believe that that's not something you rush into. You want somebody reputable, but you build a relationship with people who have certain skill sets, and you allow them to, hey, you know what? Because they have to build a portfolio as well, and they show, and then they want referrals when they do other jobs now. So I think somewhere along the lines, for a budget conscious. Me, I'm a very budget conscious guy. I believe in setting the budget, but first, before we spend one dime, we got to figure out how we're going to fund that budget first. And as I'm going along and as I'm listening, and I'm like, wow, state of Georgia, $30,000. Well, I know I'm not going to Mississippi, so they can keep their $12,000.
How about Manhattan? $8,000 for Manhattan.
I'm from Hartford, Connecticut. I'm
about an
hour outside of Manhattan.
They have every state. Let me see what Connecticut is. 43,942.
Okay, I guess we're going back to Mississippi again. But I'm listening to these amounts, and for me, who's in the process of actually
planning and
budgeting right now?
Wisconsin, 19,000.
Wow. And you bought it 18,500 under budget.
19,000.
I don't know.
I'm sure I paid maybe $500 for my wedding at the most.
Wow.
Wow. That was really good.
Yeah. I didn't have the food. Of course, we didn't have the alcohol at the church.
You did?
Yeah. No, it was in the reception hall.
Not even the communal wine?
No alcohol.
Okay, But seriously,
that's an exception, I think.
But that's an exception. Outside of finance, another thing that amazed me, I'm listening to you, is the stress of dealing with family.
Exactly.
Getting people to be on board.
Was that something that you encountered in your family issues at all?
Please.
That you would like to share?
I didn't really have a big issue with family because I knew right off the bat is what I wanted.
Okay.
And I was thankful that I had a fiance who stressed, honey, don't even talk to me for 2 days. Go and figure out what it is that you want, not what they want, not what she wants,
Absolutely.
not what anybody wants. I want you to take 2 to 3 days to figure out what you want, then come to me, and then we'll talk about it, and we'll see how we can work it out or figure out, with our budget and what it is that you would like.
That makes sense.
Because I was initially trying to tailor it around him and maybe what did he want, but he reminded me it's my day, but it's your day. So think about what it is that you want, and then we see if we can afford it, and if we can't, we'll try to meet each other in the middle. But one thing that I will say that I know that getting married is a really big decision, and oftentimes you will, have other family members try to get in the way.
Absolutely.
Have their own ideas of what they want, where it should take place, if you're religious, how the ceremony should be, what their role is going to be. But as good as their intentions usually are, it can make the planning process very difficult.
So last year, my son and daughter, mind me sharing this, they got married. My son and daughter, both 40. And the only disagreement we had was the fact that they're vegan. And they wanted an all vegan wedding, which meant no meat, no dairy. And so we kind of went back and forth with that. I know her family, I know her father, he wanted to have like ribs in the wedding. And I just wanted to have, I said some dishes available for people who weren't vegan, like fish. But they said absolutely not. They wanted it all vegan. And I was like, oh my goodness.
And I didn't eat a thing.
No, wait a minute. Are you serious? 'Cause
I kid you not.
You didn't try anything?
Listen. And this is where WCEG family,
serious?
you really got to work, because I'm not vegan on any level.
But you should have tried, because I'm not vegan either, but I enjoyed the food. They had some really, really good food. I was amazed.
And I would take your word for it.
It was really good.
The few things that...
Why did you even try something?
I tried to try some things.
What do you mean?
I really. It's like my soon to be keep getting me to try this Whopper Impossible Burger.
Yeah.
Try it. Yeah. You got a wrong idea about plant-based. No, I don't. It's still a plant.
Oh, come on. No, seriously. In fact, a lot of food were Jamaican dishes. Like she had patties, but instead of meat, it had like lentils
and yes, they brought all that good stuff.
Curry,
yes, they did.
It was really good.
And being from the ground up West Indian, I hear you. But I couldn't find any goat in there, any beef, any chicken, and I did not want to. I just couldn't.
What about the sliders? They had it looked like meat. It was on a bun with a coleslaw, and it's made out of what's that?
And I wasn't chasing jackfruit.
Jackfruit. I don't know if you're familiar with jackfruit. So, no, Penny is saying she was there. She said the food was good, and she's not vegan either.
Well, that's different, but she was hungry. I didn't come hungry.
Well,
anything was good to her.
Here's the bottom line. That's why I say it's not what anyone else wants. It's what the bride wants, and it's what the groom wants.
Right.
And what ends up happening is it makes planning very difficult when they try to incorporate other people's, what they want.
Understandable.
And especially when everybody's vision doesn't line up. And no matter how accommodating you try to be with family members, with friends, co-workers, whoever they are, you'll never ever be able to please everybody.
Exactly.
So you have to just bottom line, and it's what you as the bride and groom want. So for Dr. Wanzo's wedding for her son and daughter-in-law,
vegan. That's what they wanted.
That's what they wanted. And if you want to come to someone's wedding, then you adapt to what it is that they
and I adapted well because I drank the water. I enjoyed that immensely.
It was wine. You didn't give me wine. It was wine.
Well, I'm not a big drinker with it, and I'm not even a decent. So
like trays and fruits and things and all that.
And I didn't. But I enjoyed the wedding.
But you didn't try the jackfruit? No, seriously, jackfruit. That was my first time being acquainted with it. It's a fruit, but it looks like meat. They actually make it to look like pulled pork. It actually looks like pulled pork. It has the texture of pulled pork, and it was on sliders with coleslaw. I gobble those things up.
Did you keep some for later?
I'm not sure there's anything left.
Now I got a question. Is a vegan menu more economical than a regular menu?
Actually not. For like about 120 people, it was about 4,400 people. Yeah, vegan.
For fruit and vegetables.
I don't know, but it was about 4,000. Yeah.
Paul, I think what I suggest for you
it's the ribs that her father suggested.
And your fiance and anyone else out there listening, what you might want to do is think about one way that you can cut costs on all the different expenses is thinking about who in your family can DJ, who maybe knows.
And see, that's a great idea.
Who in your family can be a photographer that won't charge you. Like we had people that said, "Hey, we're not going to charge you. That's my wedding gift to you."
Oh, okay.
So think about who can video, who can be a photographer, who can DJ, and who can even be a wedding planner that's not going to charge you. You know what I mean? Who has
that makes sense there.
Did you have a wedding planner?
I didn't have a wedding planner.
Because the average cost for a wedding planner is $1,200. So what my daughter-in-law did, she had one for just the day of the wedding to organize. Right,
and that's what I would suggest is just having one for the day of because hiring a planner, not knocking planners, but it can alleviate some of the burden, but they're typically expensive and not really, sometimes ends up not being that feasible.
Absolutely.
$1,200 was the average cost for wedding planner.
And I started out with a wedding planner. I started out with one.
Was it?
it was someone that I knew who does wedding planning, and she told me, I got you. Okay. I'm there for you. Just tell me what you want, and we're going to get it done. It's my gift to you. But every time I called her, she was never available, never answered the phone, wasn't around. Okay. So guess what? I just said, you know what? I'm not. We just went online. We Googled planning a wedding. Okay.
Absolutely.
And I would suggest to anyone out there, if you're wanting to do it yourself, Google planning a wedding, and it's very thorough. It has, if you're getting married in 12 months, 24 months, 3 months, 6 months. Okay.
And what was that website again, Shavette?
Just Google, go to Google and just type in planning a wedding without wedding planner.
Gotcha.
And you'll get different PDFs that you can print out. And for us, we actually planned a wedding in 3 months.
Nice.
So we had a printout, though, that we were able to check everything.
It's like a checklist?
It's an actual checklist. They have little squares and everything that you check when something is done. And it helped us get through.
Okay. And it's amazing because I'm listening to you too. And it really brings it back into focus now that I realize, we can economically do an outstanding wedding if we research it well, budget it well, and really take time to talk to each other.
Exactly.
The communication is going to be key. Yeah. And I'm sitting here and I'm keeping notes because I'm at the process now and I need every last one of these notes made. But the thing that I'm keeping in mind as I'm listening is there's never going to be anything easy about wedding planning. No. And I mean from beginning to end. Now, my question to you two ladies right now also is, and also our WCEG family who's wondering, at what point do you realize the wedding is now stretched to the level where it turned into a domestic situation?
Well, like I said, 8% of the people just, had just we're planning to cancel the wedding. 8% out of the people were going to just cancel the wedding.
And that's a small percentage because, once you already send out invitations and you the excitement of being married and you're trying to figure out how to finance it, canceling a wedding is probably easier said than done. Because you have so many people who've already, if they have to, get plane tickets and they're coming in, and you already started dishing out money to different vendors and so forth. At what point, really, as a couple, do most people sit down and say to each other, man, I really didn't sign up for this? Is it at the midway point? Is it just before? Or when they reach the point where, I'm going to give you an idea. Okay. I was in a wedding 2 years ago. Dear friend, and from the word go, the wedding seemed like it had a bad omen. And let me tell you, the family was uncooperative. Even the females of family, the bride wanted a certain hairstyle, and one in particular family member refused to cooperate. I only allow my hairstylist to touch my hair. So okay, and then when they did try to do the family get together, even the engagement party. Okay. Man, that turned into a fist fight.
Really?
Oh my God, it was the best engagement party I've ever been to. And the only reason I'm saying it because this was the engagement party. Between his family and her family, they've been dating for 5 years. There was already people who had interactions, didn't like each other.
I remember growing up, this woman who was our babysitter, at her wedding, one brother shot and killed the other brother.
Whoa.
Yeah, at the wedding reception, yeah.
I ended up having to break up a fight because I'm like,
shot and killed
I'm holding two of opposite, but it gets better. And we're talking the engagement party. Alcohol always fuels problems when it comes to stuff like this. Well, let's get past all of that and get the, what do they call it, practice dinner? The rehearsal dinner? The women got into it on this one. Because, my buddy decides he's going to remove his sister who's been very, very difficult and had animosity and basically disrespectful to the bride-to-be. So in the process of saying, okay, you know what? I've tolerated your disrespect and lack of cooperation. You're no longer in the wedding. Of course, at the rehearsal dinner, she decided to go ballistic. Initially, I'm like, well, it can't get any worse than this. Oh, was I so wrong? I stepped outside for 5 minutes to make a phone call. And next thing I know, there's an all-out brawl.
Wow.
And the aunt, the cousin, oh yes, it was. When I sit there and tell you.
So did the wedding happen?
The wedding did happen. About 2 weeks later, coming back to the planner. The planner, and you said it carefully. If you're going to have somebody plan your wedding and orchestrate it, make sure they're reputable and reliable.
Yes.
The planner, as long as all the venues that the planner is responsible, make sure everybody's safe. Well, the wedding started late. You know, the bride, they had a situation at the hotel and so I don't even understand that one. But by the time, you know, they came, they were still trying to get the church together. Now we're talking almost an hour after the wedding was set, and they still trying to put up the decorations and all this stuff. And I mean, this wasn't a cheap wedding. This was put out. They get money, went on with the process of the wedding. Blah 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 blah. Everything wasn't set up. So at that point, you know, I'm part of the wedding.
But I didn't.
No, I didn't want to be in a wedding. I've been in too many weddings. I felt like Susan Lucci. So. And then pull us out, hey, could you go ahead and make sure the venue is all set up? And I was more than happy to do that at that point. Yeah, I'm getting out of here. So we swing to the venue. At that point, I'm walking through the door expecting they ready for the wedding party. It's less than 20, 30 minutes away before everybody start coming. Man, this place looked like they just arrived to start setting up. I was so amazed that so little work was done in the reception hall that I became like General Patton. And I'm sitting here delegating you need to take we had a couple of old people who were part of, you know, older family members who couldn't stand up that long or had to sit.
This was a family wedding?
Yeah. And this was in the middle of, was it June or July? And it was stifling hot outside. So what I did was I got all the elder little ones who couldn't stand being out in the heat.
Oh, it was outside or inside?
It was an inside venue, but they weren't prepared. And they were trying to keep people from coming in because it's like, listen, this is something y'all should have had done 2-3 hours ago. Because they did have a timetable. They had, and I'm looking at the whole schedule. Well, we were behind schedule. Whatever happened on your end personal, you're supposed to be a professional. That has nothing to do. You were hired to do a job. So I became the director. Make this happen. All the older people who were sitting this wedding, the elderly, I had to bring them inside the venue because it was too hot for them to be out. And what I'm trying to say is, every step of the way, I'm part of a wedding that it got crazier and crazier. And it was never good crazy. It was family drama. It was fist fights. There were the Hatfields and McCoys.
At the wedding, there were fist fights.
And here's the funny thing. We finally made it through the wedding without any drama. The reception, other than the wedding planner and the people supposed to set up, they didn't have all that stuff done. Oh man! And here's the crazy thing. This was 2 years ago. Recently, my buddy calls me. Hey, what you doing? Come ride with me. You know. He had some stuff he was moving around. Hey, could you help me moving? Well, always go. No big deal. I was off Sunday. Let's go and do it. And in the process of doing all that, he took on a very somber tone. The first thing you notice when somebody's you're close with, that your buddy's with, something's not right. Okay. Instead of our usual jovial, cracking Joseph, man, what is the matter with you? Man, we just filed for divorce.
2 years.
2 years.
Wow.
I know for a fact close to 40 grand was spent on this wedding. 2 years. At what point I'm going to ask again? We addressed 4 main issues of the dramas of planning a wedding. And we didn't even talk about working on a marriage. We're talking planning a wedding. That I got to see all of this unfold that you're talking about.
Over here, we were having our conversation with our CFO. I'll mention your name, Miss Bell. This is what she said. I had to write it down. She said, we spend too much time planning the wedding and not enough time on the marriage. I was like, wow, that was. Yeah.
I totally agree.
Said that we spend too much time planning the wedding and not the marriage. Wow.
And that's how I kind of feel right now, because the couple that's currently just filed was close and near and dear to me. Wow. First of all, it caught me by shock. And when I sit there and tell you, I didn't know what to say, because now you didn't call me to ride with you because you needed my help, you know, on a work zone. You called me because you wanted someone to talk to. And he's like, we so close, man, I wanted you to hear it directly from me. Wow. And I'm sitting there stupefied. What do I do at this point?
Wow, listen.
And you talking about a grown man who built like a mountain, the whole, and the brother crying. You know what I'm saying? Emotionally just broke down.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that I would suggest, I love what Miss Bell said, that we spend too much time planning the wedding and not enough time planning the marriage. Wow. What I would strongly recommend to anyone out there who's planning on getting married is to have premarital counseling. That's one. Because that way you get to really get more in depth with your partner and your mates.
On what level?
On different levels. I would highly recommend, I wouldn't recommend getting married without that. Because they help you.
It sounds like that's something you went through.
Yes. Okay. Yes. It really helps you to understand and know the other person. And other than that, oftentimes in our society today, you have so many people that want to get married fairly quickly. Not saying you have to go as long as we did, but we dated 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah, we dated 10 years because we didn't want to be one of those couples that date for 6 months and then get married so soon. And it's like you rush and get married and then you learn them and figure it out as you go.
Exactly.
We wanted to do it in reverse.
So how long did you go for the premarital counseling? How long did that involve?
Probably about a year.
After 10 years, why did you even need it? I'm just wondering at this point.
Well, still, this is your life partner.
I understand, but you dated longer than most people been married. So help me.
Correct.
And when you say date, were y'all in house together or is it in separate residences?
No, separate residences.
Okay,
in different states.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was a long distance in terms of, okay, and that makes sense because, I am not one of those who believe in love at first sight. I believe that you see that attraction, you bond, you see, hey, you know what, there's potential.
Right, because you don't know a person, you can't love someone at first sight. That's impossible.
But you
can lust at first sight.
Yeah, and infatuated.
And amazing thing about it, everything that we see from TV to tells us love at first sight is what you want.
Right.
You want to see the star, and it's unrealistic. So, and I believe so many people get caught up in the concept of a wedding or a marriage. It's because like you said, the whole it's like a theatrical production.
Exactly.
It makes you feel like wow.
Like women, I've seen women who have 20-something bridesmaids. I'm like, what?
Because outside of everybody trying to outdo the next person, there's also, we look at a lot of our so-called celebrities, weddings and so forth, and going back to the concept, they spend more time planning a wedding than a marriage.
I went to a celebrity wedding. I won't say who, but they spent $4 million for the wedding, and it lasted about 2 years.
Wow.
And I don't even know Star Jones, but I remember her big theatrical wedding. And the funny thing, then we start looking at the racial concept of it, because in some societies and tradition, it's very, very simple. It doesn't have to be. It's a very simple. Or like even you have those arranged marriages.
Oh.
But then we have the marriages in the societies where everybody wants to be. And don't get me wrong, I understand on your day you want to be the center of attention. But when we start looking at a lot of these celebrity marriages, and we start saying to ourselves, well, I want to be like that. Well, being like that costs. And then you start to ask yourself, how many of these marriages really survive the test of time? The percentage of success of these marriages is so low, it's unbelievable.
Like I said, the ones for $4 million was 2 years.
I'm discovering the marriages that last the longest are the ones where they spent little to nothing. Or were never televised, or never got, or went to, and I know my sister and my brother-in-law, been married damn near 30-something years, a justice of the peace. They were both in the Navy, captain of the ship, whatever, the chaplain, got married then.
That's right, my brother too, he was in the military, right? They didn't have a
baby. Yeah, they never, it was
40-some years,
Yeah, all these years, and they never, we finally did probably about 5-6 years ago, like a reception. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing a reception for? You've been together forever. But it was really one of those, like, how some people, how they want to have
renew their vows.
Yeah,
renew their vows.
For what? 3 kids, all of a sudden everybody grown doing it. You don't need to renew vows. You need to start kicking people out the house. But when everything's said and done, what I want as a man is to be simple and fun. Okay. And I'm determined to have that. Okay. And when I say fun, I'm talking about we enjoy planning this. And when I mean simple, I mean where all the guests are comfortable. We're making it financially viable for wherever you're traveling from. It's going to be elegant. It's going to be nice because that's the standard that we have. But at the same time, I have no intent on turning this into a conflict of interest. I don't want to have issues that would later on become domestic situations. Most importantly, I'm not going to have PTSD from a wedding. I need all that strength I need to just do the marriage. That compromise, that blending finance. When you're blending families and blending households and nowadays, people are so pressed to have everything fast, like Shavette said. 5 months, 6 months, we got to get married. Are we exclusive? At what point, if you do all of that quick, and I've really been sticking to the term at what point, because if you went all out to try and plan a wedding, at what point do you say to yourself before you divorce or split up that, hey, I made an investment? Who did you make an investment into? This marriage? Or like you said, Doc, impressing other people with the size of your wedding?
Right. You said something interesting about the blended family aspect. That's something we haven't talked about. I know that's something you dealt with. What about that aspect, blending families?
Yeah, we definitely have a blended family. For us, it ended up working out quite well. We have 7 boys together.
Wow.
Yes, 5 of which live at home. The other 2 are older and on their own. But it's a blended family.
No wonder they don't do dinner parties. No food.
What happened? What happened?
No wonder you don't do dinner parties. You ain't got no food left with 5 boys at home.
Eat up everything.
I'm impressed. I'm thinking how many pieces of chicken you cook in one setting.
Yeah, a lot.
Can you just tell them how many pieces?
About what is it, 50 to 60?
I can't even imagine
for one meal.
That.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they eat a lot because they play sports and they're always hungry. But talk about blended families. It's at times it was definitely an adjustment. But you work through it and you get through it, and then it ends up kind of leveling off.
Right.
But it was a challenge at times.
So how do you work through that? What do you do to work through that?
We just kind of have a rule with discipline, with his sons.
That's another,
because they live with us. We just, came to the conclusion that, hey, if they do something that they shouldn't be doing, that I wouldn't be the one to spank them or discipline them. I would let him do that, and vice versa for mine. For my actual biological sons. Then instead of him, actually discipline him, I would do more of that. Really? And that helped.
Oh, it does.
Right. Okay. So they won't feel like, okay, you're not my mom. You can't, why you, or they're calling the actual biological mom or dad saying, they hit me or anything like that. So that alleviated that.
Okay.
But going back to what you were saying, I would recommend to anyone like in a similar situation such as yourself, where it's getting kind of even more stressful and tension on planning the wedding. It sounds like your issue is a lot of people's issues, which is finances. Because if it weren't for the money, a lot of the issues and stress probably wouldn't be there as much. But I would suggest to you or anyone else planning a wedding is to really sit down in a closed room and figure out how much liquid cash you have or how much you want to put on credit cards and stick to that number.
Penny just hit me something about her marriage. It cost $21, 1977. $11 for the marriage license, $10 for the justice of the peace, and they were together 30 years until they transitioned. So $21, penny.
And who she borrowed the money for marriage? and it's funny because when I hear this, we laughing, but I'm saying, yeah, it can be done. I'm not saying that, it's going to be 1977 prices, but what I'm saying is, a lot of times with these venues and all of these different vendors, sometimes people forget, if I'm paying you money, I'm kind of sort of like hiring you. I'm a boss. A lot of people don't know how to negotiate. You don't have all of these vendors and venues, people knocking down the door, giving them money to do it. And they have peak seasons and they have off-peak seasons. Like the hotel. In the wintertime, the prices drop in a lot of places because summer tourism is over. Summertime, the prices go up because everybody want to be there.
But I think June is probably the most popular. I haven't looked it up, but I would assume that June is probably the most popular month because that's when I use the June bride.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Probably more expensive versus in the fall.
June,
but I would suggest coming up with different options. Once you get an amount, say that amount is $20,000, just as an example. Just say it's $20,000 as an example. Option one, if I do a destination wedding, what that would cost. If option two,
absolutely.
If I get married on an actual yacht on the beach and sail for 4 hours or 6 hours, and what that would cost for the number of guests. Option three would be justice of peace. Option four would be at Mama and them's house in the backyard with aunties and uncles cooking. Option four may be, whatever, backyard or church. You want to look at like 5-10 options and
absolutely.
What the costs are, and
absolutely.
then kind of go from there to say, okay, we can afford this, so we can, we don't have to do the justice peace because we've got this much. And do a process of elimination for one. But here's another kicker. One thing that really helped us is we created a website. Instead of sending out invitations and writing, addresses with stamps and mailing it off and people not sitting there with their bills that they don't even open, we did a website and we text that website to each and every one of our guests. Nice. What was really nice, we had a link to what is it called? Where you can pay money.
PayPal?
No, not PayPal.
GoFundMe or something like that?
I can't. No, not GoFundMe.
Star Jones did it.
It was a link that we had where they could click this link if they wanted to donate or give as a wedding gift.
Wow.
So people that weren't even coming to the wedding.
It was sending money.
Sent money. Eventbrite? And
it was, oh gosh, I'm having a brain fart.
Well, you need to get that brain.
It was a link
you need to let me know because I want that link.
That you can tie into on the website. And I'll think about it, and then it'll come to me, and I'll find out.
And my son and daughter-in-law, that's what they did. They did it all, through emails rather than sending out invitations.
Right.
So the cost for invitations, the return card is $6 an invitation.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Person. I mean, that's a lot of money. $6. If you have 100 people, that's $600. Okay.
And that did make sense because I'm looking at where we stand right now. When I started putting together the budget for our upcoming nuptials, and I realized, hold it, I purchased properties where my down payment for these properties that's earning me money were less than what I'm paying for a wedding. And then I started looking, we have 2 households. I'm looking at moving expenses. As far as the budget money, I've already had it liquid. This money has already been allotted because I started funding this long before there was a proposal. But the amazing thing I realized that, hold it, there's so many other things that's a priority that we have.
Unfortunately, we have to take a short break. But thank you for listening, and we'll be back after our short break. You've been listening to WCEG Talk Radio, part of the Worldwide Empowerment Group.